Hi, wherever you are right now, thanks for at least clicking. Hopefully, this works out for all of us. Try to keep an intro kind of short since the song is so short. But, a little moment of truth here is I've been, doing an Angelina reaction every day, and I'd like to keep doing that. And I did Danelia right before this. And now all of a sudden, there's this, again, not nervousness, but I think the word the other day was apprehension. It might be the word to use. Is when one is talking about the same subject matter, right? In all these cases, we're dealing with where the focus is primarily on a vocalist, and we're doing the same. Now we're doing two female vocalists, very young and talented. If I keep saying the same things, it's just not going to work. So I'm like, I hope I have a fresh perspective or can maintain one. And if I can't, then it's like I got to work on myself, right? If I don't work on myself, I'm not gonna have anything to relate or say. So a little bit of nervousness, not nervousness for today, but like nervousness for next week, right? I don't want to wake up a week from now going like, man, you neglected yourself, you didn't enrich yourself. Anyways, being said, let's do what we do. I know that 90%, 95%, 99% of the reason you're here is Angelina. It's not me, so I don't have that big of a load to carry. She's going to do all the work. But let's see if we can bring what we can bring to the table.
One river wider than a mile, I'm crossing you in style someday. Oh, dream maker, you heartbreaker, wherever you're going, I'm going your way. Two drifters off to see the world. There's such a lot of world to see. We're after the same rainbows and waiting round the bend, my huckleberry friend. Moon River and me.
Excellent job. I do have something to say. Don't know if it interests you. Don't know. Okay, the first thing, which is not important at all, really, but really the only comment on the vocals is how breathy the vocals are and how close she is to the microphone and not using a pop filter or anything like that. I'm just kind of curious of if we had an A and B testing of with her with a pop filter or windscreen, maintaining that same distance, being right up versus how it sounds now. Like, would it rob the breathiness or would it maybe color the breathiness a different way? Never know until you try. But let's talk about what I do know about. Guitar playing, son. Guitar playing, and this is the first track in forever where she has a guitar that I've listened to, where she has a guitarist as the main harmony player. I think there was one on a live show that she had one, and he did a great job. But listening to, I'm just going to talk about guitar problems, and hopefully it interests you. And maybe if you do any type of supporting roles for other people, be it on keyboard or, well, it's primarily going to be keyboard or guitar. It's one of the two usually. Maybe it'll help your playing or make you think about how you approach stuff. Okay, so when you're being the supporting, not a supporting role, the supporting role, there is a primary, unless you have a big band or a big section of people playing together, you usually have one person who's responsible for making sure the chords are where they need to be. Typically, pianist, guitarist. Okay, now with guitar, here's the problem. Especially in this type of situation where you're the only person playing, you have a responsibility to be on time on every beat. That seems, well, of course, who wouldn't want to be on time? But in guitar, we have a big trade-off, which is our positions. And we don't have a pedal like the piano does. We can't play notes, then take our hands up and let the notes ring. Yes, open strings, but you're not really going to hear a lot of open strings in these types of situations because it's very difficult to control the sound and timbre of an open string compared to a fretted or closed string. What does it have to do with anything? Well, you maintain sound on the guitar by keeping pressure on the strings. The moment you release the pressure, the note dies. But I said you gotta be on time, which means you have to move to the chord you need to be on. You have to move there a fraction of a second before the note's supposed to happen. The moment you begin moving, all sound disappears. And you're the only person creating sound. So what you'll hear, let's go back and maybe listen a little bit. You'll hear that there are two different styles the guitarists use. Now, yes, it's an arpeggiation. Yes, it's bass. A lot of times it's bass note first, and then maybe dum, dum, cha, dum, dum, right? That type of thing. But if you listen to the articulation of the notes, sometimes the guitarist was very staccato at the top. Doom, doom, cha, doom, doom, cha. And other times, sustain the notes. Doom, doom, cha, doom, doom, cha. And I know exactly what's going on because there's only two ways that this can happen. The guitarist was sustaining notes when his hand was staying in the same position. And sometimes the upper voices didn't really move at all. So there was no need to actually release pressure. Pressure was maintained. And then the notes carried. But if you're gonna cut a note short to move into position, making the note staccato is a very clever way of hiding that. When you go doom, doom, cha, you just buy yourself these extra beat and a half to move your hand and get there. And it doesn't sound like you cheated because you made the choice to be staccato. But really the staccato is buying you time to get somewhere else. So it's kind of interesting to hear these little sections going between staccato and non-staccato on the upper voices. Let's see if we can, let's go back in here and let's see how prevalent it is.
One river wider than a mile.
Staccato. Staccato.
Crossing you in
Staccato.
style
Staccato.
someday.
See, staccato.
Oh, dream
Not. Staccato. Staccato. Not.
Wherever you're going.
So you gotta hear what I'm listening to is the guitarist has to make these choices. So he also had one in between staccato and not staccato, where he held the duration for 75-80% of the full duration, let it ring. But if you keep listening, there's always these silences, these pockets of silence. And I'm going on a guitar rant because I love guitar. And my number, well, I say number one, I don't know if it's number one. It's pretty close. The average guitar player does not realize how much silence is in their playing. Going from one note to the next note. How much can you maintain of the first note before you move to the next one? And if you're going to shortchange the note, how are you going to do it in a way that's musical and is not a reflection of your limited technique or just the limitations of the instrument? Maybe you're a badass player, but just the way the guitar is constructed, everyone's going to have a hole there. which is why fingerings are so important, and trying different chord voicings, different positions on the guitar, and playing through arrangements different ways to figure out like which one has the most musicality. And I think typically guitarists definitely, other musicians for sure, they focus on playing all the right notes at the right time. But they're not really focused on what happens after they play the note. So just because you can play every note in rhythm at speed does not mean that the fingering choices and musical choices you've made are the best choices. That's one of the crazy things about guitar compared to, say, the piano. One spot to play one note on a piano, period. If you decide to move around, you might have the same chord, but you're not gonna have the same notes. But on the guitar, you can have the same note in multiple places, right? I'm not gonna demonstrate, I don't think we need to. Right, but let's just take a high E string. High E string, first string, open string, yay. Could also be the 5th fret of the 2nd string, the 9th fret of the 3rd string, the 12th fret of the 4th string. Yep, and then you wouldn't go this high for no reason because it would sound like crap, but you could also be the 17th fret of the 5th string. And you could use a harmonic on the low 6th string. So you actually have 6 different places you could play that one note. And that's how many choices you have on a stringed instrument like the guitar. You have choices like that on all stringed instruments, all fretted strings, not all fretted, all stoppable stringed instruments, violin, viola, cello, bass. You have all these places where notes repeat. And then you get different timbres, and you also put your hand in a maze, right? When you pick a choice to play a note, now your hand is here, and it changes your decision making, and it also changes how quickly you can move somewhere else on the instrument. So, yeah. Hey, I had something different to say. Don't know if it's helpful. If you're a guitar player, it is definitely helpful. Pay attention if you're a guitar player. Like, these are don't focus on the things that other people, oh my God, what did Jim Rohn say? We have a special class where we find out what poor people read, and we tell others, don't read it, right? Watch what the people do that you don't want to be like, and don't do what they do. People focus on, scales, speed, fancy exotic scales, tricks. Don't focus on that. Focus on the meat and potatoes. Like, go back to the simplistic elements of music. Don't play something hard trying to get better with your phrasing. Play something easy, because now you can't hide behind the music. When the music's hard, you go, well, the music's hard. Well, I had to do this because the music's hard. I had to do this, the music's fast, right? No, go back and play something that on a scale of 1 to 10 is a 4 for you. And challenge yourself to go, okay, play it a couple times, record yourself, listen to it, and then go, how can I make this better? It's easy. It's an easy piece of music. I can play everything, no problem. But how do I make it better? Then you can get some real work done. Because when you find things to change on an easy piece to make your playing better, you can take that to every piece you play. When you're playing something that's virtuosic, that takes the top of your ability, and you're working out these really tiny details to play something that's tremendously difficult, a lot of times those tricks or those skills only apply to extremely difficult pieces. But the majority of what one plays is not extremely difficult music. So get bigger bang for your buck in your practice and in your study by developing things that are highly applicable to your entire range of music. You heard me say it before. Don't make your best better. Find everything that's below average and bring it up. People remember the worst of what you do. They remember your great stuff too, but what they think is great is not what you think is great. But people definitely remember what they don't think is great. My worst videos, people remember those 100%. They're like, he did this and he did blah. So like trying to go in there and clean up that bottom. And if you have a lot of these little dips, these little bottoms, chances are they are recurring. They're habitual patterns. And let's not make. Okay, one more thing. Let's tie this all together. When I was going to say, like, let's not make. People are usually concerned with the magnitude of their errors, which is important if it's an error you can only make once, right? If you're jumping out of a plane with a parachute, you make a mistake, you die. You can only be wrong once. Okay, yes. If the magnitude of your error is that big that it results in death or bankruptcy, obviously you have to address that. But the majority of what needs to be worked on are small mistakes that are made multiple times every single day. Imagine you have 10 mistakes, 15 mistakes. I don't mean just in your playing, but in your approach to your work, money management, health, fitness, your diet, like how you interact with others. You have a couple of small mistakes, but you're making 2 or 3 mistakes in 5 different areas every day, 15 mistakes, and you do those tasks every day. So now you're making 15 errors every day for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. These small mistakes become colossal boulders. And if you can get by without addressing it, good for you, but I think oftentimes we have to address those. And I can look back at my own life, even my last week, right, and go, the majority of everything that went wrong is 100% my fault. No one sabotaged me. No one was out to get me. No one wanted me to fail. The mistakes were my mistakes, and I made them. And when I made them, I thought I was making good decisions, but they weren't. Make a bad decision once, not a big deal. It's one decision, Make thousands and thousands of bad decisions. Not the way.